Welcome to the Aaron Werner podcast on iCode Media. Today, I get the chance to continue a conversation with a new friend of mine, Christine Ye, and she and I met at a really fun industry event. We'll get into that in a minute, and sparked a conversation. And I realized during that conversation that I have a very deep view of one aspect of the optometric and optical industry. And Christine has a totally different experience with her time in the optical industry. And I thought that was very, very interesting and wanted to dive deeper. So invited her to come join us on the podcast and looking forward to the conversation. But Christine, before we jump into the topic today, give us a little bit of background on who you are.
Yeah, sure. I'm happy to be here today. So I'm the senior executive editor at 2020 magazine. Most of you are familiar with our magazine. There are several, but I'd like to say that we're the flagship optical magazine, so we're a product book. We mostly feature eyewear, optical frames and sunglasses. We're very stylish. We do a fashion photo shoot pretty much every issue because eyewear is not only a medical device, but it's also an accessory, a style tool. And we like to call it the ultimate accessory because it's not only helps you see clearer, sunglasses help block the harmful UV rays, but also I think most people tend to also use it as a style tool to pull together their outfits. So, but we'll get into that a little bit more later. But yeah, but there's also another aspect to 2020. It's also we feature lenses and technology, and also education and training and continuing education. So, I've been in the industry this is going to be my 25th year, I think. I always joke around that I grew up in the industry. I started in our corporate marketing department of Jobson at the time. And, I graduated with a marketing degree. It was my second job out of college. And at the time I was hired to pull together a corporate marketing campaign for Jobson because we were acquiring a lot of groups at the time, including Frames Data, and a pharmacy publication, U.S. Pharmacist, and a few other medical publications. And so I eventually moved on to our marketing department, where eventually I became senior marketing manager, and I helped promote all of our products. And, but 2020 was always my favorite. And then just a chance conversation with our 2020's former and longtime editor-in-chief, James Spina, who I worked closely with when I was in our marketing department, but a chance conversation one day led me to become his new managing editor. And he has since retired, but I am now senior executive editor 2020. So sorry, that was a little bit long-winded, but I gave it to you all. So
Yep, absolutely. It's interesting because I've gotten, since optometry school, and even before then, in my dad's office, because I did grow up in the industry. I'm fifth generation optometrist, so I did everything I could to avoid it, but it sucked me in. And so we've had all the publications. What exactly does a senior executive editor do? Like, what's your responsibilities?
So my main job is to make sure the magazine gets published and out the door, and it gets printed and published. And, so we are a print magazine, but obviously there's, a lot of digital aspects now because things, media has really evolved. But we still have an old school print issue. And I make sure all our editorial pages get published and printed and out the door and printed. And so I read every single editorial article that goes into the magazine. So it's not just the fun eyewear style pages, but all of it. And so I do editing on top of that. And then I work with our art director to get the pages laid out. And then we go back and forth but I push the button to send it to print. But I also do a lot of writing myself. Obviously I write columns several times a year, but I also write several feature stories throughout the year and just some little articles here and there, and also some of our digital products that we have, write some of the copy for that as well. So yeah, I mean, I make sure that it gets done, I guess, in a nutshell.
So the buck stops with you. I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
So it's not all just fun photo shoots and Oakley parties, right? There's a little bit of
I
work that
mean,
goes involved in that.
yes, that is one of the fun perks, but I'm not there to just party either.
Right.
I'm there to check out what's new, to network with the guests that are there, people in the industry, but also to cover it. That's the main reason why us as editors get invitations to whether it's an event or on these press trips, for example, like the Oakley one.
Yep.
And so, but yeah, and especially with social media playing such a big role now, we were able to share almost immediately what we see and what we're experiencing on our social media. And so yeah, so that's part of it. But yeah, but there's so many other parts to it as well. The lenses and technology side, as I was saying before. I'm not as you know, schooled on it, but I think I've learned so much just because I read so many of the articles, and we have a main feature every month in our lenses and tech section. Some of it can be very technical. Sometimes I'm like, I don't really know exactly what I'm reading, but I think I'm at a point where I understand a lot more of it than I would if I didn't have this role. I wouldn't understand it at all. Like for example, I'm currently editing an article that one of our writers wrote on vertex distance. And, you know, I mean, if you ask me to explain it, I probably won't be able to explain it, but that is a big part of what we do. And also we do offer continuing education and training. So yeah, I pretty much touch every aspect of the optical retail part of our
Oh,
industry. So yeah.
that's cool. So you and I met at the Oakley 50th anniversary party,
Yes.
and my kids were super upset because Travis Scott was performing, and they were appalled that an old man like me got to see Travis Scott up close and personal, and I had to ask them who he was. So if you're yelling at me through the phone, through the listening to this right now, you can guess how old I am. But we
It's
had a
okay. I only know of him also. I am younger than I look, but again, I've been 25 years in the industry, so people can also do the math and figure out around my age also. But I honestly I didn't really know all his music. I know who he is, but I'm I didn't know all the words or whatever.
yeah,
Everyone else around me were like going
they do.
crazy, and I'm faking. I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, that was funny. When we met at that event, you were
Yeah.
one of the early people who got the Houstons, the Oakley Houstons, and the special edition
The
ones with
the Houstons.
the Houstons. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And the special edition ones with the white with the red lenses.
Yep.
And I remember walking around just being super jealous because I really wanted a pair. I finally got one last week. They're amazing.
Okay, good.
And so we had a great conversation. I'm curious, since you were there to cover the event and of course, be a participant, but
Yeah.
what was your takeaway from that event and the celebration of 50 years in Oakley and their past, present, and future?
Yeah. Well, I mean, first of all, 2020 we celebrated our 50th anniversary last year. So yeah, so Oakley is a year younger than us. But
Babies.
I yeah, and Oakley, it's such an iconic brand, right? And
Hmm.
so it's like everybody knows it, and so I mean, I remember when I joined the industry, I had always heard of it, but I didn't know too much about it. But then there were some, I did end up working on some projects when I was in our marketing department on the advertising side. For example, I remember working on an insert that they bought in 2020 at the time, and that's when I really learned more about the history of Oakley. But I think it was more when I joined the editorial side where I got to see it from that side, where I was a lot more exposed to the brand, where, they used to do these things called the VIP days, and they used to fly
Hmm.
out a bunch of people, mostly, their top customers out to their headquarters. And so that was like my first time at the headquarters. A couple years in a row they did that. And I really got to see, like, experience the Oakley brand. And it's almost as if it's like its own culture, and, it has its sport, sort of, a lot of most of the frames are very sport oriented and performance, and I mean, I run in Oakley sunglasses, but there's also a whole other like sort of cultural slash like style, like fashion aspect to it, where you don't have to be an athlete to wear Oakleys. And so, yeah. And so I think just, having been invited to a lot of just Oakley sponsored events and trips really gave me a chance to sort of see how they have evolved and sort of have created this like again this whole culture for themselves that's I think that's very unique and so to be able to help be there to celebrate their 50th anniversary. It was really cool. And of course I was there to cover it, to do the whole brand immersion again from the 50th anniversary perspective, and also just to see how far they've come. For example, with the latest with the Oakley Metas, the smart glasses and its AI capabilities, because that's sort of what everyone's talking about now, AI, right? So
Yeah.
so yeah, so it was super fun, of course, but it was great to be able to be a part of that, because also again from Tony's perspective, we have a long history in the industry also, so it's kind of cool, like helping them also celebrate their 50th.
Yeah, that was it was a fun event. I'll say that, and Oakley
Yeah.
definitely has their own culture.
Yes.
And our relationship, I think, in the private practice space with Oakley has been interesting over the years, just because of their role in the industry, what they've done. But an Oakley patient when they walk in the door. They're it's they're not a passive engaged group, if you put it that way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right, and they certainly own their space. You brought up the technology, and I liked how you described eyewear as the ultimate accessory. And with the inclusion of now the smart glasses, you don't have just function and fashion alone anymore. You've got it's kind of like our smart watches and our smartphones, right? They become
Yeah.
a mandatory part of who we are. Are you seeing that more as like a hype fad? Are you seeing it as a like it's here to stay type of fad? From what you see and all the work that you do at 2020, what do you project kind of to be the evolution of smart eyewear?
I don't think it's a fad. I think it's here to stay. I mean, I remember when smartphones, or not, I mean, not even before smartphones, even when they started putting cameras on flip phones, right? But I remember thinking like, why? Why do I need a camera on my phone? I have my little, I mean, digital cameras were already a thing. And I remember I had my little Canon digital elf, like, which
Yep.
was like small enough to fit in my going out, like when I went clubbing, like my little purses. But I remember thinking like, why? Why do I need a camera on my phone? But then now it's like, we don't, like, we can't live without our, like, we document everything through our phones now, right? And so I think with eyewear, I mean, I wasn't really surprised when they started putting cameras in like smart eyewear. And so I think it's like it was like sort of the next step, right? And and I know like many years ago, I think Google tried it first with smart glasses, with Google Glass, and I remember going to an event and testing it, but I was like, these are weird and
Yeah.
and they weren't really that attractive, and it had its challenges. It didn't really last. And then finally years later, other companies started to dabble in it, and Oakley is a part of it also. Of course, there was Ray-Ban Meta that came before that, and then there was a first generation of that Ray-Ban did with Facebook. I think it was called
Stories.
Stories, right? And but that one, and that one was a huge improvement, but I think even since then it's the technology has gone even higher. And there's been other companies since, and we're actually doing a section on smart eyewear in our upcoming November December issue.
Oh, cool.
So there are some companies that my colleague Jillian is working on it, but she came across some companies that I haven't even heard of. So I don't think it's a fad. I think maybe some people think that it might be, but I think it's going to be a huge part of our industry moving forward. It already is, but I think it's going to keep growing.
Gonna
So
keep more. That's
yeah,
I'm glad you said that because that's how I feel. So it reinforced that other smart people like you were saying that's what's happening. Then I feel more confident in it.
yeah,
I always picture that adoption curve, and I think that the Google glasses, the Ray-Ban stories, we're all part of that innovators. And
yeah.
they're trying to see what can happen, even though it's not perfect, and they're going to get pushback, and the masses might point out where they're doing things wrong or not as good. But as it grows and develops, it's pretty neat now. I did at the Vision Source Exchange earlier this year. I played with the live translation on stage, which could have gone really bad had the product not worked. And I had a colleague up who spoke Italian, and I didn't, but in real time you could hear the AI translating for us,
Oh, wow.
which was kind of neat, and
Wow, cool.
seeing how that works into the world. So in this space of AI, as an editor, journal, and you said you talked about how you do photo shoots and whatnot. What is AI doing for you guys? Is it a tool to lean into? Is it a challenge that you're competing against? How do you view all the different aspects of
So I'm not gonna lie. I think AI there are a lot of benefits to it. And in our industry, it's again, I mean, our Jobson, a year ago, we launched under our, one of our other groups, AI and eye care. And it's a site that, discusses how AI can be used on the optometric side, right, of
Mhm.
our industry. And so I do think there are benefits, but also I personally, so our parent company, which is WebMD, which also falls under a bigger company called Internet Brands, we have been told that we can use AI to help our writing, but we have to be obviously, and I think most companies do this, of course, we have to be transparent about it. So we do have something on our website that does say, a variety of tools was used in this article, which may include AI. I personally haven't used it yet with my writing. I'm not, and whoever does use it, that's up to them. A little still on the fence about it because I like using my own voice. So I think there are ways that it benefits some writers, but I think it's up to that individual writer to also make sure that they fully vet what comes out of it and before it actually gets published, because I don't know. It's a bit of a little bit of a touchy subject with me because I personally don't like it, but you know what, that might change down the road, right? So I'm at a point where I don't feel I need it right now, but you know what, that maybe that could change, but I think there are other so right now for us content creators in my company, I think that's what we're using it for, or some people are using it to help their writing, but I know there are other companies out there that use it for photography. We're not at that point. We still do our photo shoots in person, like a actual traditional photo shoot. We actually have one coming up this week for our November, December issue. But I have seen and heard that AI is now being used to do photo shoots, like virtual photo shoots. And so yeah, I mean,
yeah.
that's another category that's growing, but also a lot remains to be seen, in my opinion, with that.
Uh, Completely agree. So, as someone who promised their college English professor that they would not take another English class if you passed me from your course, yeah, I'm not good at putting my own voice into words, which is why I do the podcast because I'm much better speaking. So I do use it to help me say what I want to say, not write
Yeah,
for me, but right, I bounce it off, I get feedback. So I kind of use it as I guess as an author would use an editor, right, or
yeah,
a small
yeah,
group of people to look at it. But I look at it as an active involvement. Hey,
yeah,
I like this, I don't like that. I edit it, and I'm going to give you another version, and back and forth because it helps me say what I'm trying to say in the tone that I want to convey it in, which isn't a strong suit of mine. I don't just recommend Peak Pro to my patients. I use it daily, and so does my whole family. Honestly, it's one of those rare products my wife and daughters all love. So much so they actually fight over who stole the tea tree cleanser, the peptide cream, or even the hyaluronic acid. I had no idea this would be the case when I introduced them to the Peak Pro products, but I've learned they're a great company to work with, and their lineup covers everything from daily eyelid hygiene to deep hydration. I highly recommend checking them out. We've got a special affiliate link in the show notes, and use code Warner for 25% off. The way optometrists in the U.S. treat children with myopia. The purpose of the Myopia Collective is to rally the profession of optometry and its allies to interrupt the status quo and elevate the new standard of care for children with myopia. Every individual is encouraged to become a member of the collective. By joining, you commit to taking action to help slow the progression of myopia in children. You'll receive updates and information about the collective and its work in the fight against myopia, gain access to educational opportunities and resources offered by the collective, and hear from change agents, the ambassador optometrists selected to serve as advocates for community and policy change that facilitates the mission of the collective. Scan the QR code or click on the link in the show notes to join the collective today. In the past, our focus revolved around prescribing MacuHealth or MacuHealth Plus to patients at risk of macular degeneration, while also recommending it to collegiate and professional athletes for enhanced contrast sensitivity in sports performance. However, this year's introduction of the Life Meter has been a game changer. The Life Meter revealed a concerning truth. Many of my patients have alarmingly low skin carotenoid levels, indicating potential deficiencies in essential body tissues like the retina and brain. Supported by over 30 peer-reviewed publications, Life Meter's accuracy, consistency, and effectiveness has been demonstrated across 2,000 subjects with diverse backgrounds. With this newfound insight, I can now have meaningful conversations about carotenoid levels with all of my patients, even those who may seem outwardly healthy. To learn more about this empowering technology, feel free to contact your MacuHealth representative or click on the link in the show notes. Together, let's optimize patient care and elevate their well-being.
And I think that is when we were told that we can use it to help or enhance our writing. You know, it wasn't meant to be like, oh, you like to write it for you, right?
Yeah.
And so so I think that what you said, that's, you know, I think that's what the best way to look at it if you're using it to help you write, you know. So
yeah, I think there's, you know, kind of like any other tool, right? A hammer can be used for good or bad. Water can save lives and take lives and create devastation as well. So everything in moderation and used appropriately. I'm not quite sure that I'm on board yet with the AI models. I think
from your perspective as an OD, like,
I think my perspective is just from Aaron, not even an OD perspective. But I want to. My wife used a phrase with me once. I don't know if she made it up or she stole it somewhere, but I love the phrase that says you can't be what you can't see. And so if all you see is perfection, if all you see is you know, false images, then I think that as people, like, that's going to, you know, create negative, subconscious negativity in our minds, because we're never going to be in the perfect environment. We're never going to look perfect. Airbrushing and touch-ups are we can argue whether those are appropriate or not. And I think there's good arguments both ways, but I think just having a completely made up person wearing, you know, products that don't even function and look like the actual products, because there are downsides to some of the products. I think that, you know, being able to see reality as reality is important. And at least for me, I can look at an image and say, yeah, that's, you know, that's not a real image. And again, I'm speaking just with one voice, but to me, it discredits the brand. It discredits everything else, because that's not what I'm going to go buy. You know, nothing in that picture is something that I can buy today. I want to see something that I can go buy off the shelves. I want to see you use it perfectly. I'd rather see, you know, we'll use the Oakley Metas we'll run with, you know, some of those, they're crazy athletes doing triple backflips on their bikes and all sorts of crazy stuff, wearing the glasses. That looks cool. If I had any indication any of that was made up, well, it devalues what can happen in reality.
Yeah. But you know what's happening now also, like I see it in social media comments now also. Now everyone thinks every single video or photo is AI, even when it's not. And so it's kind of like, it's, you know, and like there's So, so like, I mean, I see it all the time, like literally, like I think everyone is questioning, it's automatically, oh, well, that's AI, and so, but I think that's one of those things that happens, right? Especially
Yeah.
with social media, so
Well, I promise you that nobody thinks any of my posts are with images are AI because this clearly is not an AI generated face. Right? There's enough not rights in there, right? To know that that's the case.
yeah.
Honestly, I think that that's going to, I'm hoping it causes a huge backlash. I've got teenage daughters, and I tell them all the time, like, be you. The
Yes.
the 3.5 hours of makeup routine in the morning. Not even going to try to touch that because I don't understand as your dad. But you're naturally gorgeous, right? You're you. Like you don't have to put a face on because you're you. And so I'm hoping that the AI backlash, at least when it comes to modeling and seeing what the potential is, will help push that
Yeah.
force. Because at the end of the day, we're not selling to an AI bot. I'm selling to at least products. I'm selling to
Yes,
a
for
person.
sure.
And the person has to understand how they're going to look in the product, how they're going to use the product, how they're going to engage with the product in their world.
Yeah. Agreed.
So kudos to you guys for continuing to use real people as models. I think that's a big deal. And as long as I don't see any M dashes in your articles, I'm pretty sure that I'm not going to think that
Wait,
you
what do
used
you
AI.
mean?
Oh, that's it. My wife's a high school teacher, and so that when the students are putting in articles into Chat GPT or their papers to write, Chat GPT loves the M dash. I didn't even know how to name it until she told me.
Interesting. Okay, I did not. Okay, so now that I think about it, sometimes when I edit articles from certain writers, there are
A
a
lot
lot
of
of,
M
and
dashes.
I'm like, you have to know when to use an M dash. You
Mm-hmm.
can't overuse it.
Yeah.
So a lot of times I take them out. I'm like, it's not needed here. It's not needed here. So, that's interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So I hope I didn't get anybody in trouble. Some people
No,
may
no.
just like they may have had that teacher in college their freshman year that just loved the M dash or loved the.
No, you know what? Some of them now that I think about it, are just M dash people, like way before AI was even a thing. So, so it's okay.
That became my quick interaction when I can see that or just overly use of bullet points and emojis. So when I get that email that's full of emojis, I'm like nobody spent the time to go look up that proper emoji picture to put in here. I think it's kind of neat to see our world continue to transform and evolve and progress. I think it always has. So over your time in the 25 years, what are some of the biggest changes you look back on or biggest moments or things that stood out over the last 25 years within the optical industry that you've seen that really have made a difference or at least made an impression on you?
Wow. I mean, just from the industry overall, or from a product standpoint, because I can
I think
speak
all the
all.
all the above. If somebody said, "Hey, looking back on your last 25 years," and I purposely didn't prep you for the question because I love the real honest, answers.
Yeah.
Looking back on the last 25 years, what were some of the biggest highlights in the industry, technology wise, career wise, products, whatever it is?
Yeah. Well, I will say, I mean, because last year when we celebrated our 50th anniversary, we, as part of our initiatives, I had to go, me and, members of my team, we had to go back and look through our archives from like we have in our office, we call them the bound volumes. And so there are these huge bound books. They look like library relics. Like, they look like encyclopedias from like a long time ago. I mean, if you think about it, some of it was from a long time ago, 50, 40 years ago. And so 2020 used to be tabloid size. And so it was like long. Okay.
Yep.
And now it's more of a square. It's not a perfect square, but like a rectangular square size. Um, so we have these huge books where we used to, at the end of every year, we would send each print issue out and they would all be bound into like a big encyclopedia like book, okay, for that year. And so we kept doing it up until I think we stopped doing it when the pandemic hit, like in 2019 or something. And but we have them all sitting on a shelf in our office. And so we went back and again, we still have our print issues, but we don't bound them into these books anymore. But we had to go back and look at all the other ones because that was a lot. Most of the old issues, it was before things were digitized, and so that was our only record of it, really. I think at some point, we're gonna look at sending those out to have those digitized
Hmm.
also. But even in our art department, the files that were sent to print. I mean, back in the day, print publishing, and that was sort of even before my time. Magazines were printed on like literal using literal like film,
Really?
so yeah. And so whatever we have, even some of the programs when things started to go digital, we can't open those files anymore. And so our only way, and our website only dates back to a certain number of years also.
Hmm.
So the only way for us to really look back at the industry was to go through these books, right? And I remember looking at some of the things, from some of the issues from my time, and I remember thinking like, oh my gosh, I remember like when this was a thing, so it was a lot of fun looking like to see how our industry evolved. I think mostly like from a product standpoint, it's crazy to see like how much frame shapes have evolved, and whereas like it used to when things started out, right? It was like big and oversized, right? Like in the
Yep.
70s and stuff. And then same thing in the 80s and it was like bright, colorful. And when I joined the industry, that was like or that was like 2001, I think. That was when things started going minimal.
Hmm.
And or it might have already been sort of minimal. There was still some of the leftover like 80s and 90s styles, but I remember my first pair of glasses was actually like a big round like red pair. But then when I joined our industry, I remember having to get my second pair of glasses and I recently found it and I was shocked at how small it was. It was like these
Oh.
like rectangular silver metal frames and I'm like, how did I see through these? They look smaller than my eyes. So, and for a long time, it was like that was the style. And rimless was really big at the
Hmm.
time. But then, and I think at the time, eyewear, that was when eyewear was still, and there was always a style aspect with eyewear, but I think there was a time when it was kind of like it was small because like people didn't when you're wearing your eyewear at the time, people didn't want them to see it as the first thing that was like
Yep.
on their face. And I think that's why that was part of the reason why like that was again, that was like the style at the time, right? And so but I think over the years, and I would say more so in the last 10 to 15 years, um I think that really started to change, where it was cool to wear eyewear, right? And now and again I can go on and on about this, and I realize we have a limited time. So but I mean, we're at a point where people just love eyewear. And again,
Hmm.
this I'm not talking about sunglasses because sunglasses have always
Right.
been everybody like wore sunglasses, right? And so but with optical frames, I mean, I think like I know a lot of people who don't need glasses, who for vision correction, but who will wear an optical frame with a clear lens because they just love the way it
Yep.
looks. And I think that's really cool. Like it's just like because no one did that in the 90s or the even the early 2000s.
Hmm.
And so um I think our industry and I would like to say that 2020 played a big part of it in it also, but I think we did a really great job in making that happen.
Yep.
And yeah, people love eyewear, and especially with independent eyewear, which is a term that 2020 coined, where it's not just like eyewear isn't just licensed and lifestyle brands of like, or they're not just brand extensions of popular designer and lifestyle brands, and that is still a huge part of our industry, but there are so many brands that are born on an optical heritage. And that's what we call independent eyewear, and I think that also over the years on that side of our industry, a lot of new brands came out of that, and there's a whole other separate fan base for it. So, but yeah, so I can go on and on about that.
No, I think it's pretty neat the stories that come from it, right? You can
Yeah, for sure.
it's no longer a placeholder for a function, but now it serves as a message, right? No different
Yes.
than the watch that we wear, right?
Yeah.
It's are you team Apple Watch? Are you team Garmin? Are you minimalistic? And I've got my Timex that I picked up at Target and as I've had for 50 years and it keeps working. Our shoes, my buying old Jordans. We tell the world a lot about ourselves through our eyewear,
For
and I
sure.
think it's pretty neat, as you mentioned that we have all these options on our plate now. I think the other cool thing that we are in fashion, at least what I see from my limited fashion sense, is that there are no more rules anymore, and so it's whereas in the 80s you fit a style, in the early 90s you fit a style, in the early 2000s
Yeah.
you had Y2K style. Right now I think it's like, hey, here's the smorgasbord and buffet of all the styles, pick which one
Yeah.
you want. And so there's a lot of storytelling of who I am based upon how I present myself into the world. And it's kind of cool because it's, well, I'm not judging people. I'm certainly,
Yeah.
learning about them without even talking to them, just looking to see how they carry themselves and how they're
Yeah.
walking and what clothes they put on, what eyewear they put on, what shoes they put on.
And that's why we, as part of what we do at 2020 is, obviously we show sort of the newest products and styles that are out there, but we in a lot of the copy that we write, it's also to help our readers who are the optical professionals, the opticians and the frame buyers and the people who are dispensing eyewear to their customers. We sort of give them like style tips and just encouraging so that they can bring it back to their customers, but also, they're experts as well, and so um and I think it's like I think with eyewear it's cool because um you can have, like, for example, I'm a person that people ask me what my style is, and that changes daily. Like, I can be rocker girl one day, and then I could be preppy girl the next, and or like Upper East Side girl, like, and so I like changing it up, and so, but some people might have a particular style that they stick to, or maybe for their workplace they have to dress, a certain way, but then I think they can use their eyewear to really like show their personality, because you could
Mm-hmm.
be in a total neutral outfit, but then wearing like a really colorful and bright frame. And
Yep.
then you see that person's personality from based on the frame that they choose, And especially here in New York, like when I commute and I take the subway every day. And of course, like I automatically, people who are wearing glasses, I automatically like are
Focus on.
looking at their frames. And of course, I'm thinking to myself, and I'm trying to I put together their life based on what what eyewear they're wearing. That's just like what I do, but I don't say anything out loud, of course. But then I'm like, oh, who's the designer on that frame, and who does that, and oh, that the fit can be better on that one, like, so it's like really cool living here because I see just in a part of my daily life, I see the people wearing the product,
Yep.
and so which helps me, also as part of my job,
Yep.
so yeah.
So yeah, I think it is pretty neat to see how people engage in what they do, and even beyond that, just how the eyewear helps people even more with the nuance audios and
Yes,
the
for sure.
the features through the both the Ray-Ban and the Oakley Metas that aren't the fun, playful. I don't want to use the word gimmick 'cause I don't think any of it's gimmicky, but taking a picture, taking a video is one thing. Having AI help you navigate a street because you don't see where you are, or translate a sign because you're in a foreign country and are lost,
Yeah.
and you can't read that stuff that we didn't have, and I would have never have dreamed about. Stuff I probably watched on my Dick Tracy shows when I was a kid. Yeah. Now you really know how old I am,
It's
but it's kind
okay.
of neat to see all of that, and it's really I'm jealous that you get to be in a position to see it all and to have that, wide breadth of insight into the industry. That's pretty cool. So as we wrap up here, what are some of the, what's something thought-wise that you want to help us understand from what's coming, what we should be doing as we take care of patients and keep leaning into, all the different innovations that optical brings to us?
My gosh. Well, there's a lot. I think from the perspective of what what we do, again, we're for 2020, we're 50 years, right? And we've always been a print publication, and we still are. But it's everything is evolving more towards digital. And I think so. Again, I'm always a fan of, I'm old school. Always a fan of print, and I hope that
Yep.
never goes away because I like having something in my hands. But I also have heard that this new next generation is they're like embracing print as well. And I don't think that's, I don't think, I think that's why print hasn't fully gone away. But I don't know. I mean, I just hope that whatever happens with us down the road, even as we evolve to be more digital, that people still continue to look to us. I mean, we have a big social media presence because we also have a lot of consumer followers, but to still continue to embrace eyewear and look to us as the experts in helping them with their everyday retailing and dispensing.
Yep.
And so
Just
I don't know.
understanding what's available, right? You're the
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, totally.
And there's too much. I think there's too much for any one person to just
Yes.
consume and be aware of. And
Right.
so I appreciate you guys curating all that information into one-stop shop. And with what are we up to, 5 or 6 generations in the workforce now?
Yes, for
being
sure.
able to provide it on a platform we all can consume.
Yeah, and with, there's so much information out there now, right? Especially it's like information overload, but we're very proud of what we do. And again, that's under our whole Jobson umbrella with all of our sister magazine Vision Monday, and also all of our other Jobson public. I have to, of course, plug my,
Yep.
our
Of course.
our other groups as well, but yeah, I'm proud to be a part of Jobson for so many years, and again, it's a place that people commit themselves to our careers here. We've had a lot of people who have been long time employees who have just retired in the recent years, but we're also ready to embrace the next generation as well and welcome them in. So yeah, so hope everybody continues to look to us as the experts.
So keep looking. I will link in the show notes certainly the 2020 magazine and some of the other Jobson publications.
Thank you.
So when you can, if you aren't getting those, you can click on there and select whether you want the print version or the electronic version, engage with them. Because as Christine says, I fully believe there's way too much in this industry for any one person to consume altogether. So I love finding sources that collect and curate the different information, and then I can dive deeper into the different aspects that I want to, whether it's in the optical side, on the fashion side, technology side, clinical side, trying to just have a whole bunch of a team help us out. So Christine, it was a pleasure to meet you at the Oakley 50th. It was a pleasure to have you on and chatting today, and appreciate all that you do for us.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure myself.